Welcome to another episode of Reaching Out. I'm Gregory Floyd, President Local 237. Our guest today is Mr. John Rhea, who's the chairman of the New York City Housing Authority. John, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here, Greg.
Mr. Rhea, John, can you just tell us about this event that took place?
These are roughly 20,000 apartment units that are occupied by current NYCHA residents that have not been receiving any form of city, state, or federal funding for the better part of 10 years. And because of that, roughly $90 million a year have been taken away from our other federally supported developments in order to keep the operations of these 20,000 units afloat. That's had a significant drain on NYCHA's reserves and annual resources, and is the lion's share of our roughly $150 million structural annual deficit. So finding a solution for these 21 city and state developments has been a very important component of us getting NYCHA stabilized long-term financially, and to ensure that the quality services that residents deserve and expect can be brought to them in their communities. Public housing in New York is bigger than most cities in America. It's bigger than than Boston, Atlanta, other places. Not
Agreed. This is the largest public housing anywhere.
Right, but it's not just the largest public housing. The residents of public housing are bigger than other cities. So the mere suggestion that somehow we're going to displace 500,000 people, almost 200,000 families is just, I think, ridiculous.
John, let's hear just a little bit about your background, where you came from, and then we're going to talk some more about this initiative, what it means going forward for people in public housing.
Well, first and foremost, I've been a New Yorker for over 20 years now. So although I was born and raised in Detroit, and obviously I have deep roots there, and my parents still live there, I've been a New Yorker for 2 decades now, and actually both of my siblings, my sister and brother, are also New Yorkers and both live uptown in Manhattan. So it's an incredible opportunity to be asked by the mayor to serve the city overall,
yes.
To serve in his administration. I'm honored. And to serve residents of public housing. As I said, there are over 400,000 residents of public housing, so that's roughly 5% of the city. We also are responsible for another 250,000 residents who are in 1,000 Section 8 apartments. NYCHA manages
yes.
those relationships. We not only validate their eligibility, but we manage their relationships with their landlords and ensure that their Section 8 is available. So we are touching almost 750,000 New Yorkers daily. To serve in that capacity is humbling, and I'm honored to be able to do it, and it's obviously something that's very important, helping people with their housing needs.
Local 237 represents 8,000 of the 12,000 NYCHA employees, and that's also 1/3 of our membership. What do you see this infusion, this shot in the arm of funds?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see our future?
So one of the things that may have been lost in the discussion of the complexity of the structure and the fact that there's a public-private partnership being built here, and that's new and innovative, is the fact that this, at the end of the day, is about jobs immediately and long term. So immediately, because we're going to be investing hundreds of millions in the rehabilitation of these developments, those are creating hundreds of jobs for the construction industries and for jobs in construction-related areas. And at a time when this economy is still at 10% unemployment, and New York is, right dead smack in the bullseye of those numbers, it's very important that we do everything we can to ensure that we're putting people back to work. So I'm really excited that NYCHA is playing a fundamental role in putting New Yorkers back to work. There are roughly 12,000 full-time employees at the Housing Authority, many of which, as you said, are members of Local 237. So this is about jobs. It's about preserving those jobs, but ultimately it's also about being able to add more workers. One of the things I hear from your members, Greg, is that NYCHA's gone from peak employment that was north of 14,000
yes.
all the way down to less than 12,000 today. You take a couple thousand people out of a system that is labor intensive to serve these developments and to serve our residents and ensure they are maintained appropriately day to day. requires people. There's no getting around that. And so we need to put more staff back into the developments, the front line as I call it. And so not only is this to support the existing jobs and to try and keep pace with the cost of living that is required in our P&L in terms of our wage and labor expenses, but also to put more people on the payroll to serve residents and to give support to those hardworking 237 members who recognize that they've lost people along the way through attrition that NYCHA hasn't had the financial capacity to replace.
What does it mean for the people in NYCHA? How fast do we start seeing some of this these funds coming in, and how fast do we start seeing some work on improvements?
Mm-hmm. So the good news part of the story is that you will begin to see that immediately. In the next 30 days, people will begin to see sidewalk sheds and go up at the developments, as well as to begin to see construction crews be deployed to their developments to do the planning. And then the work will commence very quickly after that, because we have to have all the work done in 2 years. It has to be done by late 2012 because of the stimulus legislation requirements that all money be spent by March 17th of 2012. So you will see this work commence immediately.
Wow.
And put people to work, and then obviously the benefits of the improvements will be seen by residents. Now, the part that I also want to qualify is that this is not, kind of the silver bullet answer.
No, there's still more work to be done.
There's a lot more work to be done. This certainly delivers real capital for improvements that we didn't have yesterday that we have today, hundreds of millions of dollars. This also delivers ongoing operating dollars to support NYCHA moving forward and to reduce our structural deficit. So all that is real and positive and benefits all residents, whether you live in the 21 developments or you live in another NYCHA development, because there's rising tide lifts all boats. There's more money all the way around. The more work that has to be done, though, is we still have a substantial amount of unmet capital improvement needs to make in our developments. And all the funding has not been identified in order to achieve that end. So we are going to work very hard on what's the next type of federalization play that we can pull off to, leverage the resources and the assets we have to get more from them, that we're not doing a great job today, and to attract new capital to NYCHA to make the improvements that residents require.
So right now we don't have a plan, but we're just assessing what has just been done. And of course, Local 237 will be available to work hand in hand with the next phase of initiative. I'd say this will be phase 2.
Absolutely, and as you and I have talked about before, we are putting together a plan to preserve public housing long term. Our goal in New York City is to preserve every single unit of low-income housing. Public housing is a bedrock of that low-income housing stock, and then we want to figure out how we develop more. We have 130,000 people on a waiting list for public housing and a similar number on a waiting list for Section 8. So the demand side of the equation is obvious, and so we need to do all we can with the resources and the assets we have to preserve and develop more. So we are working on a plan that will be multi-pronged to not only fix NYCHA's structural deficit, but to create resources to preserve and build new housing for low-income New Yorkers.
Well, John, just thank you for being a great partner and a great leader of New York City Housing Authority when we needed it the most.
Well, thank you for having me. I commit to come back. One of the things that the mayor charged me with was being more transparent about what we're doing at the Housing Authority, and having an opportunity to talk with you on the air with your so many dedicated listeners is a great opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, John. This is Gregory Floyd for reaching out, and so long to the next time. Thank you.